Janie here, and she's how to say she's a very good looking person, and her grandmother's trying to make sure that she ends up in a nice place, right? So her grandmother was a slave, raped by the master, and forced. Well, her baby was about to be killed, but so she goes, hides out in the forest, and basically that night is when slavery was ended.
Ah, wow.
So everyone was let off the farm. It's like, okay, so she's not going to be whipped to death in the morning for like having this baby and hiding it and all that.
Good.
But then her daughter helps her grow up, and then she goes to school, and she's raped by the school teacher, and has Janie, our main character. So the grandmother's just like, all right, I want you to get married, and I just want you to be safe, because I don't want you to end up like me or your mother, because the mother actually ends up being a drunk and leaves her and disappears, basically.
Okay.
So the grandmother's just like, I want you to be safe. I just want you to be able to sit on a porch and just be like protected by a man in the house. So she has her get married off, and basically she's also like this light-skinned, beautiful black woman. So anyone would have been happy with her. But she gets married to this guy who's he just wants a worker around the house. He doesn't really want much of a wife or any type of relationship. So she's like, I'm not in love with him. What's going on? She complains to her grandmother. She's like, yeah, but you're safe, right? Does he hit you? No. There you go.
So, it's sad when that's the bar, though.
That really is the bar. But for the grandmother, it's like, all right, I've been successful. Because she's not being hurt.
You keep talking. I'm going to stop this candle that is smoking us out right now.
Yep. Now, basically, Granny dies, okay? And she's doing the housekeeping around the house. Basically, her husband wants her to do more work because he feels that she's been pampered her whole life. And she's a bit reluctant to do that. But I kind of agree with her in a way. So this guy just comes down the street named Joe, and he just sweet talks her, and they run off together. He's like, okay, maybe I can fall in love with this guy. He seems decent, and he's been really nice to me so far, so already better than my current husband. As Dean walks off again. And basically says, all right, I want to go to this town that's entirely for black people. It sounds like they're building it. And there's not much there when they arrive, but Joe is this guy's name, or Jody, and he's like, all right, well, what you guys need is, you need a general store, you need like a better just town in general. Make me your mayor, and we'll do that. And it works.
Good.
So in that case, it's all right. Some of the people don't really love that he's taken over, but like it says in the book, like they still bow down to him, and that's what causes more problems in a way.
Okay.
It's like, well, we're not going to speak up to him because he's doing a good enough job, but we disagree with things here or there.
Okay.
Okay.
But no one does a perfect job, right?
No. But we jump ahead, I think like 10 years or so. Well, we do a couple jumps. First, it's like a 7-year thing, and then another 10 years after that, and then 20 years after they met.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow.
So we have, 7-year jump, like 10-year jump, 3-year jump, stuff like that. And throughout, it seems that Joe is becoming a little bit more abusive. She messed up food one night, and he just slaps her for messing up the food. Like, okay, sure. And she works at the general store, and she messes up some things. She doesn't do exactly the way Joe wants. He's like, all right, I need you to put this note up on the nail by the door. This is how we know what we got in for the store this week. And he's looking for it at one point, and he's like, why isn't it here? This is exactly where I told you to put it. I'm like, I hate that I kind of agree with him at times because she is a bit useless around the story. But then we find out that he has some kidney failure and is dying, and then he dies. There's a bit that happens in between, but after that, she heads the store, and there's no problem around it then. It sounds like she just kind of needed to be free in a way.
Okay.
Then her. Then she's single for about 9 months. This guy comes around, starts sweet talking her. People are worried that he might be trying to steal her money because she owns the general store. She was the mayor's wife. She actually had, I think, like $1,400 saved up, which is quite a bit for like 1900,
Yeah,
something like that, especially for a black woman in
yeah.
1900. Um, but he actually seems to be a really good guy, honestly. His name's Tea Cake,
Okay.
or that's his nickname at least. Sure, why not? And so they basically starts off with teaching her checkers, and Joe would have basically never allowed this.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's like a woman should be in the house cooking. Um, why are you learning
Permanently.
to play checkers? You don't need to know how to do that. And she eventually learns even how to hunt.
Wow. Why would
And
you have any recreational activities when you could clean
yes,
tomorrow, right?
well, they have a whole like half a page saying they play and do this. They go to the cinema or something, and it's like, wow, they actually have what seems like a really nice relationship. And so I'm like, it's probably just their fears. Um, and she basically says like, all right, I've lived grandma's way, now I'm going to live mine because I'm going to do it my way because I think I've fallen in love with this guy. And you know what? I enjoy that. So she plans to marry him and sell the store. And you get that in the back of your head, like, is this guy actually for real? They've known him for maybe a couple months at this point. So I don't know. And then in my book, there's a note that says, like, what could possibly go wrong at the end of a chapter? And I'm like, dang it. I was really hoping she'd have a bit of a nice ending. Um, so they go to the next town, they get married, and the next morning, he's not there, and her money's gone. $200. She still has the 1,200 in the bank, and she's like, "All right, what's going on? Did this guy just marry me, leave me, and steal my money?"
Oh no.
But then he comes back that night with a guitar, and I'm like, and he's like, "Okay, I will never leave you. You actually are really meaningful to me. You're beautiful, and I do love you. But I did also spend about $200 in a night."
Wow. Okay.
It was. He tells this story of him getting like food together for these people, getting lots of people coming in because he's like, what does it feel like to be rich? Just gonna try. And so he feeds all these people, but then he's also like, all right, I'm gonna pay ugly women not to come in.
No.
There was one woman who was so ugly he paid her double. I'm like, oh god, this is a thing. And of course she's angry with him, like, yeah, you're lying to me. You took my money. If you do it again, I'm like, okay, wait, if you do it again,
I guess she loves him.
yeah, I guess. Things honestly go well after that for the most part. They go and just live on a farm, picking beans, making $8 a day. She even starts doing some work, which is surprising because everyone's like, okay, this woman is probably, she's thinking that she's better than all of us. Um, and then a hurricane comes, and that's where their eyes were watching God came
Mm-hmm.
about because that was the line used when they're all basically in the hurricane, everyone's worried about dying, and so they look up and their eyes are watching God at this point. Um, oh yeah, I also forgot to mention that he is a massive gambler, um, but he's
Okay.
apparently a good gambler because he like that $200, he had $12 left, got it back to $300, but he comes back from that stabbed. Uh,
Ah,
so
yes.
maybe he won, maybe he didn't. We're not really sure. But that's when they go off to this like type of plantation. And I'm not gonna spoil what happens after that. I usually do tell the ending, but hurricane happens. There's about 30 pages left, and things. I don't know. It's bittersweet. I told you the ending. What do you think? Uh,
I don't know. I like the idea of the book. I really like the story so far. But it sounds like you're giving it a yeah, right? Like, it's a good book. We're happy with it overall.
Yes. Now, I'm saying, like, I told you the ending before the podcast started. I don't know if you remember.
I do not remember.
You do not remember. Okay. There was the court scene. I don't know if that will ring a bell.
No.
Okay. Anyway, irrelevant. So the thing I really love about this is that there are so many beautiful lines in this. It's very poetic. One of my favorites in here, there are years that ask questions and years that answer. And I'm like, okay, that's actually a really beautiful thing to put in here. For the grandma, they make her out to be like a cracked plate, branches without roots. I'm like, okay, there's some really good imagery in this that I think
that's nice.
Is really
branches without roots.
Really well done.
Good poetic imagery.
Yeah. Because there's even like a plate in the scene that she says it, and like comparing her granddaughter to the plate. So there's some really nice quotes. I could read quite a few, but I'm gonna save us the time. Yeah, it's definitely a yeah. I would say go ahead and play it.
Yeah, you called for it, so here it is.
Now, I will say, like, I would recommend this to a lot of people. I'm not generally someone who likes the, like, Southern vernacular from this time. I didn't really care much for Huck Finn. It just wasn't for me.
I struggle with that type of stuff a little bit.
And there's a lot of that in here. But I think going in, knowing that it's all there, preparing yourself for it, it's a good read otherwise.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm more...
It's also fast. I read it in just a few hours.
Yeah, you arrived for the show still reading it.
Yes, I did read over half of it within 2 hours today.
I'm worried that I don't remember the ending after we obviously discussed it in the last few hours.
We were talking about it going, like, looping back to the beginning in a way.
Oh, yes, I do remember that now. Good. No, that was just me worried about my own mental health there, so I'm glad that I do remember.
No, but there's a bit in there that, like, a lot happens in that last 30 pages, and I don't want to go into it and spoil it too much, but it's not a great ending for her, but you can tell from the first page of the book as well.
Okay, fair. But
it's not the worst.
We're happy with it overall, so that's good. Alfred's fallen asleep. So, I don't know what we're paying him for.